Buonasera, benvenuti alla Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò della New York University. My name is Stefano Albertini, I'm the director of the Casa. It's a great pleasure that I welcome you all here for the third and final evening of N.I.C.E, New Italian Cinema Events in New York. And we are delighted to present tonight the first feature film of an Italian director, Marco Chiappetta, who is here with us. And with him there is the producer of the film, Angelo Curti, who has been with us previously, and is the producer of films that you might have known from directors such as Paolo Sorrentino, Academy Award winner, Mario Martone, and many others. So we are delighted that we are presenting tonight Santa Lucia, a film that takes place in Naples, and you will see it. We never say anything about the films before you see them, but we'll have a chance to speak with the director and the producer that I'm asking to come to the podium, so at least you greet them before. Prego. Marco Chiappetta e Angelo Curti. Vuoi dire qualcosa?
I will be short, like the movie. Actually, the movie is only 1 hour and 20 minutes. So we'll have some time later to have a Q&A, so you can ask some questions if you are curious about something. I won't spoil anything about the movie because you're going to discover it. But I just want to thank everybody here from first the audience, because actually you came here to discover the first feature film of a total stranger, of an unknown director at its first film. So I thank you for your curiosity, and I also thank Professor Albertini and all the people here, all the staff, all the team from Casa Italiana, and of course the new Italian cinema events, N.I.C.E, that actually is bringing this film around the world since 1 year actually, because we have been through this festival also in Dubai, Riga, and we couldn't say it, also Russia. And I'm very happy that this film has been made like 2 years ago. It started its travel 2 years ago after its premiere at Torino Film Festival in Italy. And since that moment, it's still traveling. It has been released in Italy 1 year ago. And right now in Italy it's on platform, but platform can't actually compare with a full theater like this, a full room like this. So I'm very happy to see all these people discovering my world and my vision. So we'll chat later. I just give the word to my great producer, Angelo.
Thank you to you all for being here. To me, it's a return, as Stefano said. It's the fourth time we bring a debut film, a first director movie in New York. The very first time was Morte di un matematico napoletano by Mario Martone in 1992. And we were shooting that movie when Marco was born, August 1991. So I always hope that some new director is already born, since we shot the movie 2 years ago. And when I be 90 years old to be able to bring him to New York one more time. Anyway, I keep saying to Marco and to myself not to be so long, otherwise the introduction to the movie will be longer than the movie itself. So thank you. I hope to find you all again at the end of the movie. Nobody escapes. Thank you. Bye.
Welcome, and thank you so much for bringing this film. We are very excited the idea that this is a first feature film for you, Marco. It's an extraordinary debut that you did. The photography is extraordinary. And I start with a question on Naples. That is, in your first film, you're from Naples, and it's also one of the fil rouge in the production of Angelo. There is this city that is always the protagonist in some way or the other of many of the films that you produced. So your question is, how did you decide to make this film about this topic? And then for Angelo, how do you see this one within the context of your production? Marco.
Thank you everybody for staying again in this room. And actually the first idea of this film came out 11 years ago. I was living in Paris at the time. I was living in a kind of a golden exile because I was studying cinema there. So it was my dream that came true. But at the same time, I was missing my city. I was very nostalgic about my city. So as a kind of a joke, I used to walk by the streets of Paris, also by the river Seine, and close my eyes like a blind man, and thinking about my city. So actually, I figure out that the sounds, the noises, the smell that I felt in that very moment were from the same noises or smell from my Naples. And suddenly I started to recreate a different city in my mind. It wasn't the city of my memories. It was a completely surreal, actually dark Naples. And I used to dream by that time also at night. I used to dream to come back to Naples and walk by the streets at night and finding no one around. So I started to think about what do a blind man do if he would ever come back to his native city and wouldn't be able to actually recognize the places where he lived. And I started to think that he would have relied on his other senses, imagination, and memories. So, but in that time, I spent some months back in Naples, and I met Angelo. Actually, we knew each other since 2 years by that time. And Angelo watched some of my short films I made in Paris, and he asked me if I ever had a subject for a feature film. It was kind of awkward because I was only 20 years at the time, so I was thinking it was a joke. But actually, Angelo asked me, "Did you enough with the short films? You were maybe ready to make a." It was 10 years ago, actually, and yeah, you are ready to make a feature film. And I didn't want to feel, like a kid. I said, yes, I have a lot of stories to tell. That's this story of blind man coming back to Naples. He can't recognize the city, so it's on a dreamlike travel, a dreamlike trip to Naples. And he said, it's genius. So write the script, write the treatment. We're gonna make it. So I came back to Paris. I lived there in Paris, and I was living with that nostalgia and still living with that kind of blindness and this feeling of another Naples. And when I finally ended up my studies at the university in Paris, I wrote the script. I came back to Naples, and we started this journey because actually for every first feature film everywhere in the world was very, very difficult to find financing funds, and we also have to struggle with the pandemic. So it was very hard. Actually, about pandemic, we were, after many years of work on this film, on the script, on fundings, we decided to start the shooting on March 2020. So the timing was perfect, and we finally did it by the end of the year. We had a lot of problems, but I was lucky enough that I shot this movie during a special season. It was winter time, so the dark Naples I imagined, and also as the pandemic was going on, the cities were deserted, so in silence. So some people ask me, "Did you shoot it in the streets are deserted because you shoot it in pandemic?" No, actually, I found about this deserted city 10 years before, and I was lucky enough to find. Actually, pandemic was a tragedy for everybody, even for me that I was waiting to make my film. But when I was able to make it, I found the perfect set, the perfect place I dreamed about many years before.
Grazie mille. Angelo, la tua Napoli nei film che hai prodotto e questo come sulla guida?
No, it was the meeting with Marco started when I was here in the hospital, and one of the doctors, a female doctor, asked me what was my job, and I said, I'm theater and film producer. Oh, my nephew wants to become a director. And so Marco, he was about 19, then came to my office, and so he said that I enthusiastically told him write a long story, a screenplay. Was not so enthusiastic. I told maybe you could write. But when the first version of the film you saw tonight was different, was with less. I think the film is a ghost story in a way. No, after we shot the movie, I understand that maybe the story is in the mind of the protagonist. And that's, I think, is a kind of strength of the story. It's like Marco put in during the film some traces, some warning for the viewer, and but finally you can understand that how the story is made, and I think what is what makes this movie interesting to me. Naples has been told by cinema in many ways, but I think this is a contemporary in the time we shot the movie, but also now, and I believe that people can't believe that Marco is just a 30 years man. It's like a more mature. It's like a film made by an artist who lived much more than Marco, and this is another thing that make me interesting to work with him, which is in a way is a boy, but in the other way is a wise man. And no, I am an old man, and maybe I was wise once when I was young. Now I'm trying to get crazy as I should have been maybe before. But I don't know. What happened to me in this day when I'm back in New York after 14 years was the longest period of my life. I started to come here when I was young, 23, 24. We spent some weeks in performing at La Mama, etc. Then I brought some movies here. And then there was this interruption of 14 years. And so I went this morning when I had some time wandering on the Bowery, on East 4th Street. And when I met Marco said, you did like Roberto in the movie. The difference was I'm not blind, not yet, but maybe this allows me to still see with the eyes, while Roberto uses the imagination, and this is a strong weapon to understand the world.
Thank you, Angelo. I took a picture of you for our website, for the social, and you are in this position. Marco is speaking, and you're looking toward the audience like this. And I immediately thought, Angelo vede da lontano, in the sense that the films that you produced and the directors that you launched, basically, because they were unknown when they started making film with you, most of them ended up having incredible successes in their career. So you're an old man and you're not blind yet, but you did quite a few impressive things with these directors. And aside from a doctor that was taking care of you, that told you she had a brilliant nephew, what struck you in Marco when you first talked to him and when you first discussed this thing with him?
No, at first I want to explain a kind of little secret. Usually,
abbassiamo un po' le luci.
Usually I count the person. Since I am a old theater man, you know, there is this tradition in the curtains. There is an hall, and the old actors and the old theater producer watching in the hall to see how many people, because it was important. No? It was a kind of life or death issue. And so I count the people, but it's also a way to see face by face all the people, to understand the young people, old people, something I recognize, or at my age, something I recognize, but I don't remember who is the people. So, but now with this light is better. No, in Marco I saw a young man. I saw the possibility to continue. No, there was someone in Naples said, "Tradition is life that continues," and so I think it's important. In this movie, you can see that some people, like set designer, sound the editor, the casting director, were the same people that made the first Paolo Sorrentino movie. And the troupe was made by 99% of people from Naples and people born in the 90s, like Marco, with a few person with some experience. And I think that this connection between tradition and innovation, which is also crossing the generation, young people and experienced people, could help to find a seed and let it grow. I think that's important. Me and the group I started with practice the kind of self-formation. We had some master, some reference, but never. So we loved the cinema with persons that maybe we met later. I remember that we met Martin Scorsese in New York the first time when he went to see our production at Café La Mama. But he was a master, a distance master, while the possibility to work with some more experienced people could be important for a young. I don't know. I think that for Marco it's has been important to have all the artistic freedom, but also the possibility to work with someone that could be a reference. No?
Actually, this is true because I was lucky enough that Angelo allowed me to work with this kind of actors that were actually very renowned actors in Italy for stage and cinema as well. We were talking about the first Sorrentino movie, and Andrea Renzi, who plays Lorenzo, was the main character, along with Tony Servillo. And Renato Carpentieri is a legend in Italy. But also, out of the casting, also the crew was amazing. Were the cinematographer, the production designer, the editor. There were a lot of people in their 50s or 60s. They were very experienced, so they actually guided me to this trip because, of course, I've studied cinema. I made some short films. I work on a lot of production in cinema and television, and I watched a lot of films. I think it's the base for everyone to be a director. But I needed to be guided. Angelo, for me, was an artistic father as well. And all these people actually wanted to make the same film. I was really happy that all these people, the actors and the crew, didn't want just to make another movie to add to their CV, but they wanted to make my movie. They got into my vision, my world, and helped to improve it. So this film grew up. Actually, Angelo said that this film was different in the beginning. Actually, the script was way more stagey, was way more, there were a lot of more dialogue, it was very literary. But working with this kind of people helped me to find a new voice because we wanted to tell another Naples. We wanted to tell a universal story, but through cinema. Sometimes we forget it, but it's a tale made by 24 photographs every second. So they helped me to find a new way to portray my Naples, my city, and to depict this kind of relationship. So we changed a lot, even during the shooting, thanks to the experience. Even the last of the intern in the crew helped me to change something during the process. So even during the post-production, during the editing, during the sound design work, I work with this kind of experienced people and also with young people like me, born in the 90s. Someone was even in his 20s. And all of these people, despite of their age, were actually at the same desire of cinema, the same anger for cinema. So they wanted to create something different. A first film for me was, even maybe it could be even the last. I don't know if someone would produce. So I wanted to put everything inside it. I wanted to risk everything. And I found the same attitude in all this crew. So I'm very grateful to Angelo that helped me, because this is a producer's job, not only to pick a talent, pick a story, and help it make it possible, but also create a family. And we, despite the situation around us, there was the pandemic, so every day we were struggling, that we became very philosophical, because we didn't know if the day after we will be able to shoot. But we create a surrounding that was like was a home, despite what was happening around us, because we were listening to the ambulances going around, the news were horrible, the theaters and the movie theaters were shut down, the festival weren't done. So a lot of people didn't believe in cinema at the time, but we did. So we were believing in this kind of film that, we didn't think that this film would ever make a revolution in the film industry, but every first feature film is a kind of revolution, because it's a new director, it's a new voice, it's a new baby born that tells his own story, his own vision. So, the next film maybe will be different.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
No alibi for the next one.
Marco, one more question for you regarding Naples. You said that you wanted to present a darker Naples, and of course the fact that you shot it in 2020 helps that. But also there was the research. I couldn't help but being reminiscent of the typical Neapolitan cemetery that I have in my mind when I think Naples and I think cemeteries. And you chose a cemetery that has nothing to do with the accumulation of images, photographs, flowers, fake and real, that you have in a Neapolitan cemetery. So your research of these places that are not Neapolitan in the traditional sense of the cartolino, the postcard, how did that work? Why did you choose that kind of alternative Naples, different Naples?
There are actually two reasons. The first one is I wanted to portray a different Naples, because I was kind of sick of seeing Naples portrayed always like a postcard, or like in comedies, very colorful comedies that worked on this cliche that we Neapolitans are joyful people, singing all the time and all. I sing on the shower, but not in public. And at the same time, by the time actually there was a boom in production for films and TV series in Naples, so we used to see, until now, we see Naples everywhere in the same way. So I wanted to portray my Naples. My Naples wanted to be a very poetic one. So this is the first reason. And the other one that we started this research way before shooting, maybe a year before the pandemic. And as I said before, this was a work made with the crew. So I worked with the production designer and with the cinematographer, and we wanted to we reflected a lot about the things we wanted to show, and all these places we researched had to be evocative, even metaphorical. The main character comes back to Naples, he's blind, he can't actually see the real Naples. So we wanted to find dreamlike places. They were kind of mirroring his own feelings. So you were mentioning the cemetery. Of course, the main cemetery in Naples is very realistic, and everybody shoot there. And we discovered this military cemetery. It's in the outskirts of Naples. Is a Commonwealth cemetery. There were a lot of the tombs were of unknown soldiers, British or maybe I think also American soldiers by the World War II. And of course, on one side there was written the name of the soldier. So we decided to shoot backwards. So all the tombs looked like blank, except one that is black. So it's something you discover later on in the movie. And for every location we picked and scout, there was a work even during shooting, because the film that we were building and we were seeing before our eyes was an unreal Naples, was set in an unreal Naples. So we didn't really want to go where other people, filmmakers put their camera. And sometimes even the labyrinth, the maze you see, is a very uncomfortable place for crew because you can park, you can go with the car or trucks. So go there up and down with all the materials, the camera was during a rainy day was kind of tough, but you know, there's kind of challenges that make the film an amazing adventure.
Exciting. Yeah. And I think now it's time to open the questions to our audience. If you have a question, please raise your hand and I'll bring you the microphone. Yes. Next question.
Hi. I just wanted to say the movie is really poetic and unpredictable because until the very end I didn't expect the brother to have died. I thought that he looked young because that's the way he remembered him. But also I want to say, I mean, I don't really have a question, I just have a reflection that I love the fact that the protagonist at the end like comes to peace with the mother, the brother, and even like with himself, because of course he had a sense of guilt, but at the end the message that emerges is one of love and compassion and forgiveness. So that is really beautiful.
Thank you. Actually, these are the topics I'm in love with, the guilty, forgiveness, the memories, you know, I wanted to, I don't know if it's an happy end compared to what we saw, but I wanted the main character to reconcile with his own past and his ghosts. And I think it's the struggle with nostalgia is that when you are nostalgic, you think that the past is the best time ever, is the golden age, you can't actually live the present or the future. It is a sensation that I think a lot of people here could have lived because as many of you, I lived out of my place, so out of my roots. And sometimes roots can be chains, and that's what my feeling. And I started while writing the movie, while making it, I had to deal with my own nostalgia and to something that I think is universal, nostalgia for the past, for the childhood, for somebody also for traumas. And for me, it was very important that in the end, there was a kind of hope. He had to reconcile with his own feeling of time for his life, because you just watch for most of the movie backwards, and you have to look into the future. So in the end, I want to give an I don't know, leave the ends were unclosed, you know, and see, you know, an ambiguous ending in which he faces the ghost of his past and he maybe can come back young with the same smile I can see again. Is something I wanted to leave this feeling to this. I think that all the movies, the movies I love, for as sad or tragic they could be, they could leave something to the audience so that the audience could feel at peace with themselves and with life. So I hope I did it. Thank you.
On that note, I am very nostalgic. It resonated completely with me, and a lot of people criticize me for living in the past, so I really appreciated your nostalgic observations and the theme of that whole remembrances of things past and all that. But two quick questions, technical. Were your actors improvising at all, or did you stay completely with the script? And two, more personally, did your mother see the film, and what did she think of?
Okay. Actually, with this kind of actors, I wanted this kind of actors because as they are stage actors, they could do this kind of scene, these long takes with the same intensity. They, of course, they are on the stage. They remember plays for like 2 hours on stage, so they could be able to remember. So we never actually improvised, but we had a lot of rehearsal during pre-production and even before shooting every day. So there was a room open every day, a window open to, I wouldn't say improvisation, but to new ideas. But even before shooting, the actors came out and said, okay, I think I talked about all night long about this sentence or about these gestures, and we changed a lot of things, but it was before shooting. So actually, we decided to the main mood was to change some sentences into gestures or expressions, so to tell more through the images than words. But I think the film was very well prepared. So we had the time enough to build together the characters. And I was lucky enough that while working on the script, while rehearsing with them, I discovered that these characters had a lot in common with them in real life. Because Renato Carpentieri, who plays Roberto, in real life is a very tough guy. He's very harsh sometimes, but he's still a very, very tender man with some, it's very humoristic sometimes. So he has this double personality. At the same time, Andrea Renzi, you can meet him in real life, is very joyful, is an amazing guy, is very childish in a way, but still is like haunted by a melancholy, by a sadness, by darkness. I discovered it while working with him and meeting with him, so I decided to work on these sides of their personalities. And concerning my mama, of course, my mama watched the movie. She's not here because she has to take care of the dog. My father is here. He watched the film like 1,000 times. And of course, my mom, she's in Naples because she has to take care of the dog. So otherwise, she would be here. And but basically, yeah, this is the kind of in Italy, everybody mocks us. Out of Italy, everybody mocks the Italian because we are called mammoni, because we are so linked to our mothers. I think that even people from other places of the world love their mother. But for me, it was very important to show this through the images. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a beautiful film. I enjoyed it very much here. Grazie. It's a very literary movie, obviously, of a writer, and you reference 100 Years of Solitude, a novel that many people recognize. I'm just wondering what are your other literary influences, because it is such a literary movie, if that's a fair question.
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, before studying film studies in Paris, I studied literature, so I love to read, and I wanted to make my works very literary in a way. And I was a lot inspired by Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentinian novelist and poet. You can see some references here because actually he was a blind man, and he was Argentinian, of course. And his work dealt a lot with memories, mazes, labyrinths. But at the same time, I was inspired by my experience of living in exile in Paris. By the time I discovered this collection of poems he wrote called Fervor de Buenos Aires, in which he was excited by the time in Europe and was struggling with the memories of his own Buenos Aires. He wanted to visit through imagination and memory because he was blind, like the main character. So when I was in Buenos Aires for a trip, I discovered that actually the city, despite Buenos Aires is a huge metropolis, were very likely to Naples in a way. And I felt what he wanted to say in these poems. They are very beautiful. I suggest you to read it. And he recreates the Buenos Aires of his youth. And it was a deserted, spectral, ghost-like, dreamlike Buenos Aires. So it helped me a lot to build the character, and the melancholy in these poems were a reference for my film. Maybe there were a lot more I couldn't recognize right now, but of course you were referencing Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It was important for the joke in that scene. And I was I'm in love with the magical realism, not much in literature, but in films. So I wanted to create this atmosphere where time and reality are actually suspended and ambiguous. Thank you for your question.
The beginning of your film is like a floating painting, and it appears again. I'd like to know the story behind how you
what's the idea behind?
First, like I said before, it was my first film, so I didn't know if I ever made another one. I wanted to start with something crazy. And I want to start the film with something strong, because me as a viewer, as a cinephile, I felt into the movie if I liked the very first 5 minutes. And for me, it was very important to get the viewer, the audience, inside the point of view, inside the mind of the character. And even in the script, it was we read that I wrote that we saw some colors. Maybe it's the spots of colors that actually is his own imagination, his own point of view as a blind man. And we did it in a very simple way. I was very inspired by an American artist called Stan Brakhage, who worked in the 60s and used to burn films rolls. And he had this amazing psychedelic and colorful experiment. And we did it using paint and other liquids on a black table. And we played a lot with lights, and also at the editing. We played also a lot with the speed of camera. We shot it in 25 photograms per second, and also 50 or 60. So we mixed together in the editing room, where when we wanted to synchronize every single spot of color with a voice or with a sound in the phone call in the beginning. So I was also very inspired by a scene from a movie that changed my life. That is The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick, where there's a sequence, an amazing sequence where he depicts the genesis of the world. And I don't know how he did it. He's one of my favorite directors. He's a master, and he kind of create the world. I imagine that the world was created by God or whatsoever in that way. So I wanted to imitate him and do something as powerful as him. I hope I succeeded. I don't know.
You did. You did. Marco, congratulations for this film. I remind you that it was the New York City premiere. It was shown only once in Los Angeles, right? Before in the US?
Last year, yeah.
And you know what's your homework right now? You have to go home and write on your social media, wherever you are present, or just tell your friends that you saw this great movie. Title is Santa Lucia, director Marco Chiappetta, producer Angelo Curti. And let's help him create a buzz in the States to bring the film here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being with us. Grazie.
Grazie.
Another